Alrighty, the camera's on and I have coffee. Let's do this. Books are awesome. And in my last video, I talked about 5 books that are case stories that each deal with one specific company and how they created a great organization. So that's all very practical. In this video, I want to share 5 of my favorite books that are more on the theoretical side, that go into some of the concepts and theories behind happiness at work and how we can use those to create better workplaces. Let's do it. And I want to start with this one because this one is really foundational. And this one is Hard Facts by Jeffrey Pfeffer and Bob Sutton, 2 professors from Stanford Business School. And in this book, they basically make the case that that companies need to practice evidence-based management. Instead of doing what they've always done or doing what they think every other company is doing, they need to lead their organizations based on what we can prove works, on what the science says. And if you know me at all, you know I have a big thing for science, for evidence-based practices. And in this book, they document that companies don't. In fact, companies routinely ignore mountains of evidence that we have collected over decades and instead just do whatever, do whatever everybody else is doing. Some of the chapters in here are, do the best organizations have the best people? And they show very clearly that no, they don't. It's not about hiring star performers, A players. It's about hiring good people and then making them work well together. That leads to much better results. And my favorite thing in the book, do financial incentives drive company performance? And the answer to that would be a big, fat no, they don't. And yet, you see companies trying to make employees perform better by promising them, bonuses and raises, or trying to create better company performance by giving their CEO huge bonuses. It doesn't work. And one of the things that has bothered me a lot about this whole COVID thing in the workplace is seeing how many big workplaces, especially in the US, have laid off tons of staff and yet have given their CEOs $1 million raises or bonuses despite company performance going way down. It makes absolutely no sense, and this book proves it. And that's why this seriously, read this book. It is a must read. This book is amazing. And while we're talking of Bob Sutton, who co-wrote the first one, here's a book by him, another book by him called The No Asshole Rule. I think this book is phenomenal. I love it for the title alone. I actually talked to the editor of Harvard Business Press, who was supposed to publish this book. And they said, they talked to Robert Sutton and they said, we'd love to publish this book, but you have to change the title. We can't publish a book with asshole in the title. And he was like, then I'll find a different publisher. And he did, and the book was a huge, huge hit. This book basically shows that no workplace should tolerate assholes. Jerks in the workplace ruin it for everyone else around them. Especially jerks in management positions, especially jerks at the top of the hierarchy, because they can affect more people, and also they tend to hire more jerks. The book has a ton of science to support this conclusion, and I think it makes a great case for why one of the hiring skills that we need to look for is just be a good human being, be a nice person. It's not the same as being soft or wishy-washy. Just, don't be an asshole. And speaking of busting myths, this book by the American writer Alfie Kohn called No Contest is also amazing, because a lot of companies think that you drive better performance by making people compete with each other. Right? By driving internal competition between teams or people inside the organization. You might have, let's say, a team of salespeople, and the top salesperson will get a prize, and the bottom salesperson every month will be fired, or whatever, right?
Because we're adding a little something to this month's sales contest. As you all know, first prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Anybody want to see second prize? Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired.
people think that works. And he shows in this book, with a ton of science, a ton of research, that no, it doesn't. In fact, on average, people perform worse when they compete than when they work together, when they collaborate. And this goes both in school, in sports, and at work. So we need to stop using competition as a motivational factor, as a factor that we think can drive performance, because it does the exact opposite. And speaking of motivation and what really motivates us, I know that everybody and their aunt has already read Drive by Dan Pink, but it's a good book. It's a good book, and I think he makes the case very convincingly for why, again, financial bonuses and incentives don't work and actually create poorer performance, and what we need to do instead, which is something very, very different. In the video description, I'll put a link for his TED Talk, which, again, everybody and their aunt has already seen, but maybe you haven't. Go watch it anyway. It's a great talk. I will say I do have one thing to add to Dan Pink's model. I agree with the way he tears down the traditional motivational financial things like bonuses and rewards and raises. And then he says that there are three things that really motivate us, and those are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So autonomy, being free to work in your own way; mastery, being good at what you do; and purpose, working for a higher purpose. And I think those are great, but there's one missing, which is relationships. Working to help people you care about, whether those be your clients, your customers, your coworkers, your city, whatever, is a hugely motivational factor. In fact, is one of the factors in the other big motivational theory, which is called self-determination theory, where they talk about connectedness. Being connected to other people and working together with them or for them is incredibly motivational. And I think that's missing, but from Dan Pink's model. But otherwise, great book, great video, great TED Talk. Go watch it. And stop trying to motivate people with bonuses. It's never going to work. It never has, never will. And my final recommendation on the theory side of things is this one called Well-Being, Productivity and Happiness at Work. I always love it when a book specifically has happiness at work in the title. And this one does. And this one is a theory overview of all the research that looks into how happiness at work affects us, affects our health, affects our productivity, affects our longevity, and a lot of other factors in our lives. 110% research-based, and again, I am a sucker for that kind of thing. And that's why you can trust this book, because it's based on data, and the data shows that happy employees are more productive. It really is that simple. So these are 5 of my favorite books on the theory side of happiness at work. You should absolutely read this. I'll put a link to each of the books in the video description. And remember, we also had the video with 5 great case story books, and you can find that link in the description as well. Happy reading.